ready?
If I can have just 1 second to get my documents up here.
Go ahead. We are back in session, so when you're ready, go ahead and tell us who you are and what you're here for.
Okay. Matt Olson, Director of Bannock County Juvenile Justice. Todd Mager will be joining us shortly. I think he's on his way over here. I'm here to present our budget request and recommendation for county fiscal year 2025. Just in summary, our department has 3 units that we are separated into in terms of organization. We have our intake and diversion unit, which is over at the village, responsible for screening petitions and charges and doing everything they can to divert those cases that are low risk from court processing and court and probation. We have our probation unit, which takes moderate and high risk youth on probation. Those caseloads average anywhere right now between 50 to 70 cases that each of those probation officers have on probation. And they're assigned by school. So we have one assigned at Highland, Century, Pokey, and then the elementary schools. And then we have a probation officer who takes cases from elementary schools and middle schools. And then we have our intensive services unit. That's where our Bannock County Youth Development Center is that we collaborate with the school district on. We also have our specialty probation cases there. So we have drug court caseload. We have a crossover caseload, which includes youth who are in both the juvenile justice and the child protection system. And we also have a sex offense related caseload over there, and then a supervisor over there. So when we're talking about our budget, we have 3 main funding sources, really, that some from the state. As I go over those, we have employees from each of those units scattered throughout various budgets. So in the first budget area, in terms of 0115, from a personnel standpoint, I just wanted to provide some updates. For me, it's line 11. It's 106, 103. It's this juvenile status offender coordinator. We had a person in that position that was a grade 11 and at market. That individual has taken a different position, and we just hired a new individual that the commission approved, and that person, I believe, is starting at grade 10 minimum, so that will adjust to $45,511. We have 2 probation officers in this budget that have completed the post academy, and the request I'm making to the commission is that those probation officers be given an extra step increase for completing that probation certification. So that's for me line 13, which is 106 114, and then line 14, which is 106 115. I would estimate if they're given that extra step increase that those increases would be about $665 to fund that step increase for the completion. If I can go back to line 11, that probation officer, if she completes her probation certification in 2025, our request would be that she then be given a step increase for completing probation certification in 2025. So. We do have, starting in line 19, our part-time individuals. We have hired this year a number of new part-time individuals, so those, the funding has gone down in terms of what the salary is for those individuals. So it ranges from about $19,148 to what they are now would be $18,881. So within this budget here, we're actually going to have some cost savings because of we have new employees that are lower grade or lower step. So everything else to that point from an employee standpoint, I've just put in what the salaries were because I know the commission will determine what those are, but those are the specific requests I have in terms of adjustments to salaries.
My goal is 3%.
Okay.
That's my goal.
Okay. In terms of on-call, which for me is line 30, we have had our exempt employees filling in terms of the weekly on-call. So we have an on-call person assigned every week. 3 of us are exempt, and we have carried a week of on-call right in the rotation. Because of the volume of calls we take as an exempt employee and the hours we work, what I've done is created a schedule where our non-exempt employees would be assigned on call. And so based on the budget that we had before, they would get one 10-hour shift for each week that they're on call. So that would increase this budget slightly from what was $4,300 in 2024 to $5,400 in 2025 by removing the exempt employees out of that on-call schedule. Does that make sense?
What did you just tell the other people that were exempt? No.
That's why he's making this change.
I can tell you, even and our probation officers take a lot of calls when they're not on call as well. Once law enforcement or schools get our cell phone, they just call us directly. But
No, she just gave another employee a bad time
I just
earlier. So
explained that if you're exempt, you don't get the on-call pay,
yeah,
because that's what you guys encountered.
I can promise you we do the work.
You guys
We're
are
still,
different.
we're still on call,
Yeah.
even
You
though it's
have
not the
the-
official on-call.
You have the abilities to have someone else do that, so it works.
Okay, line 48, this is for me a request that we have for training. I've requested $15,000, and I want to just let everyone know what this training is for. Right now, we anticipate this training would be...
Excuse me just a
Yes.
second. I'm not sure where we are here.
Go to the bottom where it
We
says
just went-
$15,000.
So right here.
There's no line item.
That's right. 15,000.
Okay, there's nothing listed on the left here.
We'll put,
It's,
Okay,
we'll fix the coding as to where it needs to be on the clerk's recommendation. Yeah.
all right, thanks.
Okay, no problem. So one of the things that we had completed in the past is a training put on by University of Cincinnati called EPICS, which stands for Effective Practices in Community Supervision. It is an evidence-based training that really trains probation officers, and in this case, we're also going to add village staff who are doing case management, so the prevention officers as well. And really, those specific skills are associated with effective supervision. So it includes things like training them on motivational interviewing, how to gauge families effectively, how to facilitate behavior change. So we're not just meeting with people and checking off boxes, did you do this or did you do that? We're really focused on behavior change. And University of Cincinnati developed this curriculum based on the evidence of what is most effective in helping to facilitate behavior change. What's interesting about this training, it's a 3-day training that they come and they will actually do here at our county. It's not one of those trainings where you go to for 3 days and then you hope you stick with it. This is a training where after you're trained, after those 3 days, there's actually 5 months of ongoing training where staff submit audio tapes and they get scored and evaluated and get feedback so that they can continue to improve. That goes on for 5 months. So the idea is you're actually developing a high level of competency in those skills, and you're getting the feedback to develop those competencies. In addition, they train coaches that will be part of our staff, and those coaches then can do the ongoing quality assurance. So those coaches get trained in how to evaluate audio tapes, score audio tapes, and give feedback similar to what they were receiving for the last 5 months. So for $15,000, we would get and this includes their travel and everything else. It includes the ongoing 5 months worth of follow-up training. It includes their 3-day training here. And so we are requesting $15,000, which is what they've proposed to us would be the cost to train 10 people.
10 people.
The other thing that we have in terms of a line item in the B budget is for a match for a part-time employee that we've had for a number of years who does our truancy court. It's $13,522, which is what I'm estimating for 2025. The school district pays the other half of that, and this individual works with youth who have either been diverted from court or referred to court and then sent back, and implements our truancy court program, which is a cooperative with the school district. Last year, we had 122 truancies that were referred to court. A number of those were able to be diverted back to the truancy court where this coordinator facilitates really reviewing their progress. They have weekly meetings with the judge for a period of time till they're making progress, and it goes to every other week. So for $13,000, we get a lot of value out of that position. Part of that is for a cell phone stipend because she has a lot of conversations on her personal cell phone with schools as she's checking with all the various schools in the district. So that's been a long time position that we've had, and we're requesting funding to be able to continue to maintain that position. So, okay. Any questions about the Juvenile Programs County budget?
Nope. Thank you.
Under the Juvenile Corrections Act budget, these are fees this is a revenue that we receive from the Department of Juvenile Corrections as part of a block grant. We have 3 positions in there. No operating budget in there. I am requesting, similar to what I did in the Juvenile Programs County budget, we have 1 employee that completed post, and that individual is on line 11 for me. And it's 106,116, and so I'd request an extra step increase for that individual completing post. And again, I see this as a big part of retention, and I think it's consistent with standard operating procedure that the county has already. In looking at Chapter 6 of the standard operating procedure, 6.03, Section B, it does say an in-grade step increase may be granted to address factors which may include obtaining a professional license or degree, completion of training programs such as post. And so that's what I'm hoping is they'd be able to receive that extra step increase under that policy. And then similar to what I talked about before, we do have 1 exempt employee in this budget that I've taken out of the on-call rotation. That would slightly increase the budget for the on-call, which is 40920, from $1,083 to $1,331. Any questions about this budget? Juvenile Programs Tobacco, that's our 3rd revenue area that we receive from the state as pass-through dollars. We have 4 probation officers that are in this budget, no operating budget. We do have 1 probation officer position that's open right now. That's 106,111. When we hire for that individual, I'm requesting that the person who is hired, if they complete post in county fiscal year 2025, would receive a step increase upon completion of the certification of, by post.
So what we'll do for those items is we'll just budget a step 1. That's what we do with the sheriff's office, jail, and detention. And then that way, when that employee does become eligible, the department is responsible for making sure that approval form gets done, because they know when the 1 year happens and the passing post.
Again, the on-call budget increases here just because these individuals would have more weeks on call, so it increased from 4,281 to 6,176 is what I would estimate. And then that's under current salaries. And obviously, if those salaries increase, we'd have to bump that up a little bit. So, any questions about tobacco budget?
No.
Easy. Okay, so by far the majority of our operating budget is within the Juvenile Workshop Trust.
That's page 92.
That is primarily funded through probation fees and diversion and prevention fees that are charged. I'm estimating that we would have approximately $60,000 of revenue between probation fees and prevention fees that we collect. We also have a couple of other revenue sources that they're actually more of a reimbursement. So for drug testing that we're able to do, we're able to get reimbursed for the cost of those drug testing expenses. When kids are ordered to receive a juvenile psychosexual evaluation, the judge will order that they reimburse us for that under restitution. So we do receive some restitution back. And then we get some reimbursements for travel reimbursements and things like that when we're utilizing state funding for traveling. We used to have a lot of revenue, and it was actually reimbursement coming back to us from the state through something called community-based alternative services. So when kids were ordered to participate in sex offender counseling, that cost us approximately $5,500 a year per youth for their counseling, polygraphs, and those types of things. We would pay for that out of this account, and then we'd get reimbursed. currently, we've been able to work with the provider and the state so that we're no longer the middleman, so that the reimbursement requests go directly from the provider to the state. So that changes the total overall revenue coming into this account, but it also significantly reduces the expenses as well. So in looking at our operating areas, we've made some slight adjustments. In terms of office supplies, I think we've been very frugal there, but we are actually estimating that we'd reduce that by about $1,000. Did increase computer supplies because some of our computers are getting older. I know they're going to be on a rotation to be replaced eventually, but in case we have 2 or 3 computers go out, mine just went out this last week. Want to make sure we have funding for that.
So let me stop you right there for a sec. These are supplied through the grant then? They're not supplied through?
This, if I'm understanding correctly, this is a contingency money.
This is contingency.
If their computers are not included in the IT's rotation.
Okay, because Adam just come and he has quite a few computers. Okay, that's where I wanted to make sure we was clear.
So yeah, we have some computers that have not hit the 5-year rotation yet, but if they go down,
You need it.
we need to be able to replace it.
Do you still work with Adam in case he has money to buy those instead of you having to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we talk about it. This is one we funded out of this year though. So.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
In terms of operating supplies, we have that at $7,500. That's a reduction because we moved the clothing allowance out of there into a separate line item. We did increase our truancy court rewards. So kids who come to truancy court, much like drug court, they're given rewards if they do well. Based on the amount of money we've used so far in 2024, we're estimating that $400. So we've increased that $200. Operations at the Youth Development Center, which for me is line 31, we increased that significantly. We went from 1,000 to 3,000. Main reason for that is the amount of activities those kids are participating in, getting out into the community, field trips, those types of things. We're finding that they're utilizing that money for great education activities, and they have ideas on other things that they could do that may cost some money for them to participate in. Electronic monitoring is an alternative to detention. Detention is about $157 a night. Electronic monitoring is about $6 a day. We've utilized it heavily. We had $14,000 in the budget last year, I'm requesting $16,000 this year. And again, this would come out of the trust. Looking at what we spent year to date, we've already spent $11,000 in electronic monitoring. So I think food in terms of hostess and luncheon stays the same. Drug testing, slight decrease. Software support, this is so that we can utilize online education programs. It can be particularly helpful for families that can't attend programs in person because of schedules or travel. So this allows us to access some important competency development services for families. So that's part of that software support. Slight increase in repairs in office equipment, postage, travel, and education all stay very similar. Vehicle repairs, this was an oversight on my part. Last year I didn't put it in the budget. I've always had it in the budget. I don't know how I missed it, but I'm requesting $1,800 for 2025. And then fuel's the same. Lease on office equipment is up a little bit based on the expenses we've had. We have the $2,000 for uniform. Professional services is at $24,000. That's really our biggest expense, and that is mainly used for juvenile psychosexual evaluations. Those cost us about $1,300 a piece. If they do a polygraph, it'll cost more, maybe upwards of $1,500 to $1,600. We've usually averaged anywhere between 9 to 12 polygraphs a year, sometimes a little bit higher, sometimes a little bit lower. So a lot of that's contingency. This year we had not spent a lot of that money. So we're fortunate in that regard, but we don't control how many kids are ordered to get juvenile psychosexual evaluations in a year. So we want to make sure we have funding in that budget to cover any of those expenses. So. And then I've put in some money, and I don't know if we would need to move this, but for body armor, our staff do wear Kevlar vests when they go out on home visits. So estimating that we would need 2 new vests at approximately $2,000. So to give you an idea, that total comes to 105,380, but a lot of that is contingency based. I think last year, what we spent total out of that account was, I want to say maybe $60,000 or so. Let's see.
My report shows only 51.9.
Yeah, so close to $60,000. So.
So, in all our figuring and stuff, moving to school, is there any expenses and stuff like that that you're looking to?
One of the things we had questions about was cameras. Met with Adam. The majority of the cameras we have up there can be moved over to over there. So I think we had requested 3 cameras in that general camera request. The other thing was potentially office furniture and things like that. Met with YDC and looked at their current office furniture. A lot of the chairs they have over there already are new. The old chairs are the ones that actually the staff are sitting in that maybe need to be replaced. We plan on taking the desks over there that we have currently. A lot of those pieces of furniture are actually funded by the school district. So for some reason, they said, we want this back. They could come get them back. We do anticipate some additional costs for furniture for a couple of offices. The school district provides Title I funding to help support that program, and we put that in the Title I fund budget request to cover those costs. So.
And then we've always talked about ADA compliant stuff. Are we gonna be able to have up applications for grants and stuff? I mean, as we're talking about all this, I'm kinda just curious what direction we're looking at.
Well, yes, we would be ADA compliant. One of the things that we've talked about, and I know this relates to the village as well, and Todd can kind of talk about the vision there as well, but for years we had a clinical unit as part of our department, but we could never become a Medicaid provider because we didn't meet the ADA requirements where we were in that old building. We weren't looking to take away services from the community, but to provide services to our youth that were really specialty type services, certain types of family counseling, those types of things. So by moving up there, we are ADA compliant. From a grant standpoint, that certainly helps, but it could also help if down the road there was a consideration of becoming a Medicaid provider and having a clinical unit there, and maybe in conjunction with the village, how those could be operated together under one umbrella potentially, or if we need separate. But
Yeah, I just, as we're talking about budgets, what's our plans for not only this budget year, but the next budget year, so that we kind of plan in that direction?
Do you have, what if the Title I funds don't come through? Do you have a list of potential needs that we could add as contingency?
yeah, so I will say that there are concerns that the Title I funds that used to be used specific to the Youth Development Center program could be reduced. We are able to draw on some of those Title I funds that they're sharing that they're using with detention for some things. There is within the trust a surplus amount, and I don't know what that is. I know we've had savings every year between our revenue and what our expenses have been, but if we could access those surplus funds to cover any costs that we might have that would be unexpected, that would be helpful.
Can you get a list of the furniture?
Mhm.
Include some new chairs,
Yeah.
desks, stuff like that. If you can get that to us, we can see if we can find a spot within the clerk's recommendation
Okay.
that we could at least have that as a contingency. And then that way, if you don't need them, we won't spend them, but I'd rather have it budgeted. And then that way, you'll be covered either way.
Okay, I appreciate that.
We will probably have to look at utilities and how that's gonna be split. And maybe Dan will just cover those, I don't know. But right now, the event center covers their own up there.
Mm-hmm.
So I have that written down, and repairs and maintenance, just light bulbs and toilet paper and things like that we're gonna have in that facility once it's done. I don't know what the completion date is looking like. But if it's gonna be operational in 25 at all, we'll need that figured out.
Yeah. And that's what I just kind of wanted to throw out there.
That's perfect.
I'd rather have it in the budget than, and not spend it than not be able to take care of needs.
Any other questions at all?
I don't have any more.
Any questions? Well, what's Todd doing? I haven't heard from him.
Supporting. Supporting. What do you want to know?
You reported to us a couple weeks ago, and things sound pretty good.
Yeah, we submitted the 2025 grant request. That if, what we should know, I was just looking, looks like we should know June 10th, so I don't know what we're waiting on. That's what it says on the grant timeline here, but that would pay for the data system. We are carrying over between $80,000 and $90,000. I think right now we're sitting around $93,000 that we carry over from state fiscal year 24 to 25. We do have a $3,000. We ordered some cabinets to be put in above the copy machine in the storage room and one of the bathrooms. And so there is another $3,000 that once those are installed, we pay. But I think with the carryover funds, if we're funded, we should have maybe 2-3 years in the bank if we do well. Matt had discussed the possibility. I'm working with some other assessment centers and looking at the requirements and if it would work out to be able to become a Medicaid provider. We could pay bill for some of our assessments, case management, and then if that's the case, maybe the possibility of getting that clinical position to where we could. Right now, we have interns doing a lot of the crisis and triage, and we're referring out to local agencies for the CDAs and the clinical work. But there are times where families are in crisis and need to see someone right now, and so those interns are fitting that bill. But if we did become a Medicaid provider, we could possibly bill for those. The CBAs and things that the clinical director could do without affecting local providers, I feel. Kind of weighing that all out right now. We've got a few that are working really closely with this, and the waiting list to get kids in and families in has gone from like 16 to 20 weeks to 1 week. So we're navigating and feel like we're pretty successful at that right now. So.
Good. Well, I was over there for Board of Guardians yesterday, and that's just a nice facility. I mean, a lot better place to meet than where they used to meet.
Yeah,
So,
and the county's welcome to it. There's no really on the schedule and share.
very good. All right.